I must admit, I was blown away. I love the film. I first heard about it when you took it to South by. Finally got to see it for Diff, and now it's at this festival. Where did these two girls come from? I mean, where did this kind of spark from? Where did this come from?
So it's based on my own teen years and a best friend and I that had a few of these same experiences.
So I've got to ask, with that being the sense, how much of it was difficult or cathartic even to flesh out their story? Like, was it hard in that sense?
Well, no, I think it was, I think the only hard part was taking some real life things that actually happened and making them, right for the screen. Because so many times, like, things that happen in real life are really, really crazy, and so you put it on paper or on screen, and it's like, that would never happen, So that was the only challenging part for me, I think, was the emotional thing of like, no, this really happened, like, I'm going to show it like it actually happened, and then being like, well, it doesn't translate well. So then you just create things to fill in the blanks and make it more cinematic.
Wow. So do you mind if I ask then, what was maybe the element, or was it them doing the throw up, or was it something else, or the arrest?
Well, no. So we did come up with crazy excuses.
Okay.
When we had like a million crazy excuses. We faked stomach flu all the time. We also got robbed by a friend of ours who we knew, and he came in the morning and took stuff, and then after that we all hung out again, and that's like, there's a feature version that I'm making later, and that actually, you see that, like, he robs them, but then they all just kind of like hang out.
He's back again later.
Yeah, he's back. So it's just ridiculous stuff like that, but that stuff actually happened. The stuff that didn't happen was, the beach trip, and we dreamed of going to the beach, but we never made actual plans. Like, we never had our shit together well enough to like actually save money and get out of town and go for a trip like that. So
I love the not bickering, but like one-upping. Right. And that whole, I think the line is, I barf better than you.
Right.
Was that straight out of y'all's relationship?
No, I added that line because my husband and I have a joke about the word barf, and he likes it and I hate it, and so I was like, I'm going to put it in there for him. It's like a line that, but no, we didn't really have a one-up type relationship that I can think of. We got along pretty well.
Very cool. I've got to ask then, like, inside jokes or jokes. Your daughter's in the film, briefly, but you've given her easily one of the best IMDb titles ever. Is it Puke?
Oh, Passerby.
Number 2, because she's the second one. Yeah, that must be fun, just in that sense of having Athena. She's always going to be associated with that.
Yes, totally.
Is that a motherly aha?
Oh yeah, I give her the worst stuff to do. Like, the first film that I made, or the first shorts that I made, she was in all 3 of them, and we made them over the course of one weekend, and each of the 3 were progressively worse, like, as far as things that she had to do. The one that ended up, like, I was a teenage girl, that wasn't bad. I mean, she'd never kissed anyone though, and so she's like, I don't have my first kiss on screen. So she was a little nervous for that, but the other, like, she had to walk at night in like her swimsuit, just like horrible like stuff that is a
torture
mom.
To your daughter.
Yeah, I should be in trouble for it. But she had fun. She's always like, give me something hard, because of the lack of stuff that females as actors have. She's like, I want something challenging. I want something like crazy. So I'm like, okay, I'll give you some crazy stuff if you want it.
Well, let's talk about that challenging part, and the fact that if you make this 2 guys, all of a sudden you get into Judd Apatow. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Where this has so much more relevance, but it's also, these are just girls having fun, but we think of it differently, and how you're getting to show that must be fascinating, but also kind of a struggle. I mean, and kind of a pain in the ass.
Which part?
Just the justifying what they're doing.
Why. Yeah, it is. It is, because a lot of people are really put off by it, and to me, like, this is how I grew up, and I grew up with guys. My brother was like my best friend for years, and all of his friends were my friends, and so talking like that, or like doing these crazy things, that to me was my childhood. And so when I see like these teen films where the girls they're like the good ones, they're really, like upstanding citizens, and then it's the guys who are dirty and always talking about sex. It's like, no, like me and my best friend were just as bad or worse than the guys, and so I think it might just be a lack of exposure for most people. I think a lot of people had a different upbringing than I did, and a few people had a similar situation, and those people are like, oh my God, like this was us, like we talked this way and we did these things, and that's great. But a lot of people are like, do girls really talk that way? And in my experience, they do. But yeah, it's pretty cool to expose people to it.
You know, there's a thin line of where you could go with this film. You could go really dark, like I thought of 13
Yes.
as a film that comes to mind.
Yes.
But you didn't. You straddled it where it's still funny and it's still humorous, and you love these girls for what they're crazily doing. Like,
Right.
you know, we can't take any uppers. The first thing they do is take coke. I mean, that scene could have been really dark.
Yeah.
Was it fun to keep it a step back and humorous? And
Oh yeah, that's my intention. It's hard though, because a lot of people in the notes process of the script, actually, they're like, I don't know if I need to feel sorry for these kids or if it's okay to laugh at them. And so that's definitely been a struggle, because the situation is dire. Like, it's awful. And it was when I was growing up too. I mean, we were 15 and we worked at IHOP and we paid bills and we didn't go to school. We were just dropouts, didn't have parents to take care of us. And so that part did something, like, looking back, I'm like, how did we survive that? But the fact that we did survive that, and that was our teen experience. And so to me, it was important to show our teen experience. And I know there are a lot of kids out there who have similar experiences, and it's not all bad. It's not like every day is just like drudgery. Like, we had fun and we did stupid shit and we laughed and, you know, we had good times. And so that was what I wanted to highlight.
you know, there's a couple cool elements. I love the Andrew Tinker song that's in there.
Oh yeah.
Did Toby write that?
He and Andrew did together, yeah.
That's such it's such a beautiful end sequence.
Yeah.
It's funny. Garland PD, by the way. What was it like adding that element, and where did that come from? Where did that song come from? I love it.
So I had the Glory of Love.
Okay,
I had that as my placeholder, and I just told Toby, I know they're amazing songwriters. I was like, hey, do you want to write something? And he was like, yeah, we'll whip it out. And so, like, in a couple weeks, they just had this great, and we just kind of went back and forth, like tweaking it and getting it what I felt was right, like for the film. But that was their basis. Like, it needs to escalate, and then they have the breakout thing. So it was really fun working.
As far as, because you're wearing a button, I like buttons, I like shirts. You have a great shirt in that last shot.
The drugs thing.
Yeah. Was it fun to kind of play around with that and the
Yeah.
whole element? Because you were growing up when that was the saying.
Yeah, exactly. And initially the movie took place in the 90s, and so
Okay.
that was part of the appeal of that. Just like, it really spoke to the 90s, and just like, that'd be something that we did back then. You know, we're doing drugs, but we're wearing the shirt just to kind of be assholes about it. So yeah, it was really fun.
So this is a big year for you, for David. I mean, this is crazy 2016. Gosh, what's it been like?
It's been cool. It's been really cool. It's been different. I mean, it's nice to see hard work paying off. And so, I mean, when we met back in 2001, like, I was in like this tiny short that he did, and just to see like the process kind of unfold over time. And then when we reacquainted, that was in 2009, David and I, we kind of kept in touch over the years. But then in 2009, he was just like driving back and forth to LA, and he and Toby take trips several times a year trying to get something going, and nobody like was receptive to it. And then he, just to see like finally like it hit after all of that effort and all of that sacrifice, and just like, it's been really good. I hope other filmmakers see that and they're like, okay, so he's almost 20 years into his filmmaking path, and finally it's happening. And I think a lot of people give up before it ever takes off. So I think he's a really good example of just don't give up. Like, and he also places, I think, filmmaking above creature comforts. So I think that's hard for a lot of people to not have new clothes, or not have like the house or whatever these like milestone markers are of like becoming an adult. That's never mattered, and I think that's part of their success. The reason.
Well, it's been reflective in the work. That's the crazy thing. Even from back to Saint Nick, even I mean that whole thing. I've got to ask then, as far as like writing for you as a writer, when you finished this script, was it a close for you in this time frame, or are you going to reach back into this?
Oh, I'm not done yet.
Okay, yeah.
I made the feature. It didn't turn out the way I wanted. Cut it into a short. That's what you're seeing here, and then added a couple scenes to kind of round out to make it a proper 3-structure short. And then went back to the script, and that's just what I've been doing. So, I mean, I'll go home after this.
So feature? Yeah,
the feature. It's improved so much. It's like coming to be what I set out to do in the beginning, and that's been really good. But I'm not completely done yet.
Of course, yeah. Well, then another element, having the Dallas presence. I mean, you, Toby, Hutch shooting a little bit of it. It must be special to have Chris is in it with his.
Yeah.
He's in. I think my favorite shot is him in his underwear.
Yeah, it's so good.
Oh, really?
It's so
Okay.
funny.
That must be something to do a film with your friends, but also this could start off something special in the feature. That must be really cool.
Yeah, it's great. No, I love working with my friends. It's the best. It's probably the number one best part of making films is being on set and being around people that you collaborate well with, and I really look forward to that.
So, does that mean that you're going to see more of you here in Dallas? I mean, where are y'all back in LA?
Yeah, we're here for the meantime. We just got back this past week, so.
All right.
Yeah, so we'll be here for a bit, but where is next, I don't know. I mean, we're definitely shooting the film here, so.
Very cool.
Yeah.
That mean more Garland potentially, and seeing Garland?
Yeah, although most of what we shot was actually in Irving, and Irving did a really good imitation of Garland. And you go to Irving now, and so much of it's untouched and unchanged, whereas Garland is up and coming, and all of the old places that I wanted to feature when I was writing it, just they're gone, and it's slick and fancy now. So.
Was it kind of sad then to have to go to Irving? I know the drive's not bad, but.
No, Irving's fine. It was sad to go to Garland. No offense to Garland, but there's a lot of, old memories and junk that's buried there that it was fine not to have to turn up. And we did shoot a little bit there, but it was really nice, having Irving double.
Can you talk about finding these two girls and how much did they bring to it? How much fun did they bring as their friendships? Yeah.
Yeah, they were the best. When setting out to cast, I was like, I'm not going to be able to make this if you don't find the perfect girls, and I'll put it on hold as long as I have to until we find them. And so we went through a really extensive searching here and in LA and just everywhere, and not finding anyone who was just quite right. There's a certain thing that comes from being young, but having that maturity to live on your own, and yet immature. It was a really weird balance of people that we had to find, and so we saw a ton of kids, a ton of girls, a ton of kids in general. And then I just started looking online, going through YouTube videos, and then I found Backstage.com, and you can look at the actors that have profiles on there. And so that's where I found Angela, the dark-haired character. Yeah, her name's not Angela in real life. It's Ashley. So anyway, so I found her there, and then wrote her on Twitter. Found her on Twitter, wrote her some message this is weird, but I found you, and do you maybe want to audition or write me or whatever? And so she wrote, and then so she was perfect. And then Christina, the blonde, she plays Jessie. She was just we after all these castings, she was submitted last minute. She'd been out of town or something, and so we saw her, and then the two girls came in, and they were just perfect.
As far as shooting wise, you said your previous shorts were all done really tight, quick.
Right.
What was this shoot like?
Also like that. We did 16 days, which for a feature, I mean, this was for the feature that is
16
cut down.
days? Yeah,
so it was really fast and just really, hectic, but it was a good learning experience. And so, yeah, it was, but that was for the feature, and then from that we cut that down, or I cut it down to a short. So I don't know what the short equivalent would be, but then when we did reshoots, we did 2 days of reshoots to fill out the footage from the
Okay, that makes
that made
sense.
the short.
Yeah, that's quick as hell for a feature, though. That's
Yeah,
insane.
it was really quick, but we didn't have any money. we were shooting on a dime, so.
It doesn't reflect because it looks great.
Oh, cool, thanks.
Talk about not just we talked a little bit about the music of with the song, but
Right.
just the whole feel and pace of the film and the choices in when you had music to go with that pace. Like, what was it like in that editing process of cutting down and knowing we've got to add this song to kind of get us to this next scene? How hard was it? How much fun was it?
Well, I love working with music. That's one of the best parts about editing is matching tempo and feeling out the rhythm of the scene and then matching it with the song. So I really like that. There are 2 songs in it, and the first one is by another artist called F. Stokes, and he's a rapper, and he was, do you know James Johnston?
Yeah.
So,
Spiral Diner.
Yeah, and he's a filmmaker himself,
Yeah.
a great one, and he made a film last year called Melville, and so that was the actor/rapper that was in Melville, and so I was like, hey, does he have any, let me look at his music, and might he let me use a song? And he was like, yeah, I'd love to let you use a song, and so it just worked so beautifully. And I mean, with shorts, you can kind of get away with using whatever music's out there, and no one's going to really care. Sometimes there's an issue if you're going to play it for money, but at festivals, you can generally put whatever song in you want. No one's going to say anything. But I really wanted to work with artists or like Toby and Andrew, who it's original music and it's just specifically for this film, and so that was really cool to have that.
And passionate people. I mean, Melville's such a...
Oh, it's so good.
Wow.
Yeah, I love it so much.
Just quick question about Diff and about recognition. Because obviously South by did show recognition as well. They nominated you. I mean, it was showcased, but Diff really, we loved it.
Yeah, it was so cool.
What was that like, having the home festival basically say, thank you for doing this?
Oh, it was so great. It was so great. I was just shocked. Because I was like, this isn't one of those films that's going to win awards. It's going to be entertaining and people are going to like it. And so that was really shocking and also really, really cool, especially because it is where I'm from. And we shot it here, and so many people who are in it are from here. Yeah, so it was really great. It felt really good.
So give us what's next. I mean, what's coming up for the film, but also you and David. I mean, it's a big ass year.
Yeah, so next is just finishing up these rewrites and then making the feature within the next period of time. I had a time limit set, and then I just realized that with the way my life is, my daughter's almost 18. She'll be 18 this December, and so that's a chunk of time. And then, being in the whirlwind of David's stuff that he's doing, that's another chunk of time. And so it's like, as much as I want to set time limits, I had, and then I realized I need to just go with the flow. And when it's done, and I'm not going to push it to be made at any certain date until it's completely ready. But I do have a lot of people who are like,
we want to see it.
Finish the thing. Like, my team is like, you need to get these rewrites, so get it done and we'll make it. So I've got a lot of support, so that's really good.